Hello everyone, this is artist Dan Seitzinger. I thought I would do another quick tip video just to introduce you to some of the tools that I use to paint and create art. I just wanted to first mention to everyone that I'm not at all endorsing anybody's product line specifically, but this is just the things that I do use when I'm painting or trying to create effects. And I do have higher quality brushes. This is Bob Ross 1-inch brush, and I believe I have Kevin Hill brushes, both in all different kinds. This is I think this is one of the softer blender brushes. And I have a Wilson Bickford, sorry about that, Wilson, brand brushes in my collection, and I think I've got this from Brandon Thomas, who is a great wet-on-wet instructor and artist. As you can see over here, I have a ton of different kinds of brushes of all different sorts and shapes. So anyway, what I'd like to start off saying, I'm trying to keep these videos short because it takes me forever to upload these things on YouTube. So I'm kind of new at this, and so I apologize if the quality isn't really great. But anyway, I'm a big believer in not throwing something away if it has a utility to it. I kind of save things, so that can be good and that can be bad. I guess you can get too much stuff built up, too much garbage and stuff built up, but I try to if I find a use for something, I try to save it. So anyway, I actually just use scratch paper for many things. If I'm printing something, and if it's a misprint, or if I get ads or flyers in the mail that have a blank side to them, sometimes just use that. I used to just practice my strokes on just plain old scratch paper. That's one thing. Another thing too is if you're mixing paint, I'm using this little tiny palette. It's not very big. I do have bigger palettes, but I paint mostly on a small tabletop easel, so this fits on my little table area, my little work area, real well. So it doesn't leave me a lot of room to mix colors. So what I'll do is sometimes I'll just take the color off the palette, and if I blend it on the palette, or if I don't like or not sure what I'm getting, because what I do is over time, as my paint starts to dry, and acrylic will dry on you fast, you should always have a mister bottle. I mean, that's essential to have some kind of way to wetten the paint again. So a mister bottle is a #1 thing you need to have if you're doing acrylic painting. I'll mist my paints on my palette. I'll just mist them generally to keep them fresh as I'm painting. But what happens is over time they start to kind of all bleed together, and actually that's kind of cool, because when the colors start to kind of like blend one into the other after they get wet, over time, over a few days of misting them, they do, and I'll get kind of like color combinations that I probably never even thought of mixing. So it gives me some really cool color choices because they kind of like blending into each other. But what I'll do is take a brush or whatever, and I'll touch the mix. Say I have 2 different colors here, like I'm trying to do a sky color, blue, whatever, and say I don't know if I like that color, and I don't have room on my palette because all the colors are sort of taken over the entire white area of the palette. I actually use the scratch paper just to rub it on there to see what kind of color I'm getting here. So I'll know whether I want to add more blue to the mix and then make it darker or whatever, and then it kind of looks the same. Or if I add a little touch of black, it kind of turns into a gray, and then that way I can just kind of sample what it's going to look like, and I can tell what the value is going to be. So scratch paper is great for having next to your palette, just to check what colors you're actually getting. The other thing too is you should always have a cup of water. I keep a little bottle here with water and a cup from the fast food restaurant. Again, I don't throw things away, and I'll just fill a little bit of water into that cup, and so my brush doesn't dry out and get stuck, paint stuck on it, because brushes can be expensive. If you pay a lot for a brush, you don't want it to have the pigment stuck in there drying. So you just throw it right in the cup and just kind of like move it back and forth and try to get the pigment off, and then tap it on the sides and then set it to the side or on a paper towel. So paper towel is another essential item to have in your collection. So this paper towel here, you can do so many things with it. You can clean your brushes on it. I saw a guy on a video who painted almost an entire painting just with paper towel. Except for some of the detail work towards the end, he actually almost entirely painted that painting with paper towel. So you can use some very unusual things to things you might not think of to actually paint or to blend paint. Sometimes I use my fingers. But anyway, the other thing I'd like to show you is these brushes over here. These brushes are called, I believe they're called chip brushes. And you see how gnarly these things are? This is a 3-inch. They come in different sizes. 3-inch. Here's a 2-inch, and here is a 1-inch brush. But what I like about them is these things have these hairs that are just all kind of spaces and gaps in between them, and they're great for making foliage. You dip your chip brush into a little paint, and you just kind of flick it, and you can get kind of like tall grass effects, And I mean, it's just really cool. The kinds of things, sometimes you can just lay it flat, and if you want short grass, you just basically just dab it, and you're getting, because of the brush not being a full brush, it has these little hairs sticking out. You get all kinds of like neat grass effects. And you can get those for like under $1. They're like $1 or less a piece. You can find them at hardware stores. You can find them at any place that sells like paint supplies. I guess they're just cheap brushes that are meant to be disposable. Sponges. Different kinds of sponges. These kinds of sponges are cool because this little round sponge I got, I believe, in a cosmetic section. So women's cosmetic sections are good places to find art supplies or things that you might use in your art. It would be great if you're trying to make a moon or a sun. You just dip it, you dip it in the paint. This isn't, of course, a moon or sun color, but it does perfect round circles. You can actually use that as the starting point of your moon or sun or whatever, if you have the right colors, or a planet, if you're doing spacescapes. So that's another thing too. And you just basically put it in the water too, and just kind of clean it up. Just start squeezing it in the water to get the paint off of it. You can use it again. So anyway, and you're gonna find all different kinds of sponges out there. This is another cosmetic type of sponge. I haven't even thought what I can do with this, but I think I did use this one time on a guitar. Actually, was doing some kind of effects on a guitar because I do custom painted guitars. You're going to want to get yourself a set of natural sponges, which are really gnarly because you can do all kinds of interesting effects with these things. Another thing I found at a dollar store was, see if I can get some light on this, is one of these, I think a whole set of like 3 or 4 came in a pack for like $1, and look how wild and gnarly that is. I mean, great for making foliage. You could just basically get lost in the kind of effects you're getting here. I mean, you can make foliage and tree leaves or whatever, or get the starting to foliage, So anyway, there's all kinds of things you can do with some of these things you find at value stores or budget stores. Need to clean that. Another thing too is tongue depressors, great for mixing paint. Probably a poor man's palette knife. You can definitely find a use for these. I haven't thought of everything you can use them for. You can get yourself a set of toothpicks, and toothpicks are great for making stars, or where you need like little dots of light, little spots. Sometimes I've actually drawn it through something to pull the paint out, if I want a really thin line. And they come in different formats. I mean, here's one that's I think it's a bamboo skewer made for like shish kebabs or something. You get a huge pack of these at the dollar store, and they're just larger toothpicks basically, and they come different kinds. I've found different kinds. This would also be good for something, not sure what, but I'm sure I'll find uses. You can find foam brushes, and foam brushes are great for doing other kinds of effects because they're soft and so forth. Most of these things are considered disposable, so if you lose one or whatever, forget to clean one, there's no big loss. Another thing too is you have a toothbrush. Don't throw away your old toothbrushes, because you can actually put paint on a toothbrush, and you can flick it and see how you get almost like little star effects. See, so that looks like a planet with some stars around it, black stars. But so I don't have the right colors there going, but you get the idea. You can do all kinds of really cool things with things you might normally just throw away. Don't throw away a straw. You go to a fast food restaurant, keep your straw, because when you put paint down on something, let's take here, I guess I did find a use for that. Let's put that there, and you just take your straw and just start blowing on it, You can move the paint around. You might get I've had it where it actually looks like there's like tentacles or something coming out if you blow the paint just right. That kind of looks like a leaf shape, but and when you let that dry, you actually could start painting vines, like leaf veins in it. So there's so many different things you can do. The last thing I want to touch on is saran wrap. You definitely want to have some saran wrap, because you can cover your palette after you've put your paints down. Say you're through painting for that time, and acrylics dry quickly, so you definitely would take your mister bottle and mist the entire palette like that. Just get it real wet, and then put a piece of saran wrap over the whole thing. And actually I put my acrylic paint on my palette in the refrigerator. I keep it in the refrigerator with wrapped in cellophane, in plastic wrap. And that's pretty much it. You can even use plastic wrap if you wad it up. You can actually use plastic wrap and get weird kinds of effects. So many things out there you can use in your art, and they don't cost a ton of money. So anyway, I hope that helps. I hope everyone's having a good day out there, and thank you for listening. Bye-bye.